Hello and welcome to Freight Logics Hub podcast, where we discuss the historical developments of logistics in Kenya and East Africa. I'm your host, George Kidenda. I hope that you have enjoyed our episodes where we have interviewed quite a number of former trailblazers in logistics, the latest having been Mr. Jamal Bayusuf. And today I want to bring again yet another friend, an old friend for many years that we worked with, Mr. Clement Mombo Mwambingu. I first met Clement Mwambingu here in Mombasa while he was still working in the shipping industry. But maybe the best thing is to ask him to introduce himself. Clement, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kidenda. My name is Clement Mombo Mwambingu. I am a shipping and logistics expert to say, but so far retired and currently doing consultancy in logistics.
So where did you grow up? How did you get into shipping?
Well, my background is after O levels, that was in 1976. I came to Mombasa looking for a job, and I ended up in Mombasa Polytechnic, where I wanted to study commercial subjects. Unfortunately, I was not able, or my father was not able to raise the requisite fee, which was about 1,500. And later on, one of my uncles, who is the younger brother to my father, told me to go and take a typing course in preparation to join shipping. It was a requirement for someone to know how to type, because all the documentation was done through a manual typewriter. And true to it, by 1978, an opportunity came up, and I got employed in Leslie and Anderson, East Africa, as a shipping clerk and assigned inward freight department, which today we are calling documentation department.
Okay. So you started off as a clerk?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
In the inward freight department, that is documentation.
Okay. Yes. Did you have any experience in rotating from department to department in that organization?
Initially, I was trained on the job in inward freight department for about 1 year, and shortly after I was taken to outward freight department, which is today is called documentation exports.
Okay. I remember us meeting sometime later.
Yes, sir. Yes, we
And
did. Yes.
at that time, at Signal, we were looking for someone who had an experience in shipping, as we were moving into a very specialized area of quayside bagging of fertilizer and wheat at the port of Mombasa. Can you tell us some of the things that were most challenging when you came and we started doing bagging on the quayside?
Yes, after I was employed in Signal Freight, that was 1988, I think around October. I didn't have the idea where now I'm starting. But later on, I was briefed by my then general manager, Mr. George Kidenda, what my assignments would be. And I realized, well, there was really a big job to be done. But since I had the interest in the job and I had some background in the job, we started off immediately. And after 1 month, we had our first ship coming up with fertilizer from the US. Ship's name I can remember was the Pride of Texas.
Yes.
With about 30,000 tons of DAP fertilizer.
Okay.
And that's how we started. And most of the time, I would go to the field to supervise the work or to monitor the work and report. But also got a lot of help from my GM, Mr. Kidenda, in terms of guidance. And it was good that we managed to perform well on our first vessel, giving room to several more ships in the coming years.
Okay. I remember one of the challenges at that time was the fact that the vessels were operating 24 hours.
Yes.
And the KPA gangs were operating 8 hours. But they would achieve their target within 3 hours.
Correct, yes.
And then the next 5 hours would be lying idle. Do you recall how we managed to overcome that problem?
Yes, it is true. The KPA gangs were always assigned piecework, which they are very happy to do. And come 11 o'clock, 12:30, they are done, and everything will be down till 3 o'clock. And my GM then asked me, or somehow he had some idea of what can we do to improve on productivity. And I remember he had a friend in the port. We had good relations with the port. He went and had a discussion with the managing director of the Kenya Ports Authority and made suggestions on how we can improve on productivity. And the suggestion was that can we be allowed to pay incentive to the labor?
Basically, what we were doing was introducing bonus performance for the port workers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So the bonus scheme was a strange thing to the KPA labor. The union was a bit scared of what the bonus would be, how would it be paid, what is the intention. But I think slowly, when the idea was developed, the start off was they would be paid the bonus scheme after a week's work. And that didn't seem to be very attractive to the labor. They say, no, we want to pay after the shift. We want to earn that money. So finally, it was agreed that after the shift work was done, we quantify the tonnage and we say, okay, how much are we agreeing on? We agreed on an incentive value, which was done. And slowly we built up the bonus scheme in the port, which interestingly has changed the productivity in this port to date. Because ships used to take about 20 to 30 days because they were discharging a dismal of 1,500 tons in a day, 24-hour day. But when the bonus scheme was introduced, we could do up to 3,000 tons eventually, which was unheard of. And that became a new culture in terms of productivity in this port, which has remained up to today. If you are told today to work a ship without incentive, certainly nobody will take it. Nobody will take it because they know there is a working formula, which is good for both parties.
Now, I recall that one of the challenges that we had in Signal was that we were very young people competing with very well-established companies with very well-grounded members. And one of the things that we practiced was job rotation.
Yes.
Did you ever rotate?
Yes, that's true. In fact, I got the opportunity. Since I had some background in freight logistics, by the time I was joining Signal, I was also invited to actually assist the operations manager as an assistant operations manager. And slowly, I grew both the shipping part and on the freight logistics side. And of course, later on, I was in charge of freight logistics in Signal.
Okay. There was a motto at Signal: efficiency is our strength.
Correct. Correct.
Can you elaborate on this?
Oh yes, efficiency was our motto, or efficiency is our strength, was the motto or policy of the company. And it was really a good policy because one may not know everything, but once you are given assignments and you have the will to do what you have been assigned and you do it successfully, that became a stepping stone. And true to it, that was a very good policy that everyone else can emulate.
You recall that all this time we were still doing manual customs declaration.
Yes, that's true.
In 1992, we decided that we were going to computerize customs declaration.
Yes, that's true.
Do you remember our experience?
Yes, I think I would say Signal was the first company in Kenya to computerize customs declaration. I may not remember the IT terms much, but I know we used to have people calling programmers. We had a program that was done where we could improve our declaration works through the computer system. And by so doing, later on, I think that idea also went into government, into customs, and they also started developing.
Actually, the first entries that we launched,
Yes,
because at that time we had to declare on what the government called flimsy paper.
yes,
That flimsy paper was some translucent paper, but for us to computerize, we had to now print on computer paper.
yes.
That folding one. And I remember when we got there, all our entries were rejected, not because the calculations were wrong,
But because of the paper.
but because of the paper. And that is in 1992.
Correct.
By the time the government computerized, it was 2002.
Yes.
But you remember that eventually they allowed us to lodge those entries. And the amazing thing is that, for instance, when we were clearing for General Motors,
Yes, GMK.
yeah, we would be declaring over 800 items.
Correct.
And Christine, who was our best declaration typist, would take
Nekesa.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
It would take her 2 weeks
Correct.
to do that declaration. But when we computerized, we reduced the time from 2 weeks to 4 days.
Correct.
And of course, that made us be more efficient, as per our motto. And the other thing that then took place was that if there was an error on an entry,
yes,
then of course we just correct that one small error, and we are able to reprint again.
Correct.
That was a good experience. But I think I left you in Signal.
Yes, I think around 95.
95.
Around 95. Yes.
So what was your role after that, and what have you been doing since I left you in Signal?
Yeah, okay. Since you left me in Signal, actually you left me now in Signal Maritime.
Yes.
Come Signal Freight Operations.
Yes.
And after 1995, we continued with what we had learned from you the previous, I would say, maybe 7 years. And we continued up to 2000, I would say, and 5 when I was leaving Signal. But by the time I was leaving Signal was the reference point for customs documentation in terms of computerization. I think it was only Signal where they used to come, where we take them through what we are doing, how we are doing it, and they used that information to go and build up their customs system. And the rollout, which was done around, I think, in 2005, around July.
Maybe I could give you the background of why we computerized.
Yes.
We are competing.
Yes.
And we were sharing a client called General Motors.
Correct.
And our competitor was Agent Cargo.
Yes.
So during my regular visits to plants, I would always find out what is happening, how are we faring with the other people.
Correct.
Agent Cargo was a smaller company to us, of course, rising, but at that time they were turning out to be more efficient than us. And that is when I decided that I was going to computerize our system.
Yes.
So that we could be more efficient in our declaration, and then we could also be able to give the feedback.
Yes.
And remember, we developed then the 6 CDS.
Yes.
Where we would now not only do the declaration,
yes,
but we'd also generate reports.
Correct.
Okay,
yes,
to be able to send to our clients. Okay.
Correct.
But anyway, so you left and
yes.
So what have you been doing since you left Signal?
No, when I left Signal, I joined Mitchell Courts Freight. Again, as shipping and logistics manager. That was 2005 August. And from there, we also went into a new project in Mitchell Courts, where we were doing, we started doing container freight station. That time, the systems in the port and customs were manual. So there was a lot of paperwork also that had to be pushed around. But slowly later on, also the government of customs and KPA also adopted the computerization idea and improved on the documentation, which has changed the entire system of documentation in Kenya to date, where we had manifests lodged electronically in customs. Also KPA also came up with a system that is the portals, where the manifests were electronically processed, and that has helped a lot in terms of improving on the efficiency of cargo processing out of the port, either to the CFS or to the importer side.
Okay. Yeah. So you started off with Leslie Anderson.
Correct. Yes.
Then you came to Signal.
Correct.
And then you went to Mitchell Courts.
Correct.
If someone asks you to advise them on the best way to manage a logistics company,
yes,
from these companies, what were the best practices that you captured that you'd impart to those who are coming into the business today?
Well, I would say, when I look at Leslie Anderson, we were half-half in terms of nationalities. In Leslie Anderson, our management, 90% of our management was Indian.
Okay.
20% was African. Even the support staff, a good number was Indian, and a few of us were African. And of course, we learned a lot because they had more exposure on the job. We learned from them, and ably we were able to pick up, and we learned a lot. So the work culture there was still fair enough in terms of there was order and commitment and hard work. But the best environment, I would say, in my working lifetime was when I was in Signal. When I went to Signal, first thing that shocked me is you start with a prayer in the morning. Early morning, 7 o'clock, you have to be at the office. You start with a prayer. 8 o'clock, now you go to your desk and do your work. On Fridays, we used to have a short brief. Our GM then, that was Mr. Gedenda, would be the pastor for about half an hour or so. And it was good. It was good. It was really good. People would wonder why an office people would pray, but I think it's always good to start with a prayer anytime before you start your work.
Okay.
And I think that was the good culture that I learned from there. The other culture that we got is, I would say, there was a lot of discipline. Even though I was not a smoker, but I never saw anybody smoking in the office. I never saw anybody. If somebody, I think I realized later on, there were a few who would be smokers, but they would run away into the canteen, and you'll never know that they were smoking. But never did anybody smoke in the office, and I think that was good culture. We were also taught a lot of order in terms of the obedience. We were taught a lot about, in our prayer time, a lot of integrity, which I think is a good thing in life. And it was certainly a very good environment to work in. But of course, you have to have the discipline because I know when you go to your senior's office, you don't take a seat until you're told to sit, which was good. When you come across your chairman, we used to address them in the order that we were taught. And true to it, up to today, that's the way some of us address our seniors, which was a good thing in life. Yes.
In terms of training, I just want
training. We had a lot of seminars, a lot of seminars in terms of training, both not only operational, but in terms of management. A lot of. I remember we also had a project, I think, which we were being taught about productivity, which was really key. Productivity.
Improvement.
Improvement productivity. So we learned a lot in terms of management training when we were in Signal, something that some people in other environments were not getting. And that's why Signal was Signal that time. It was really excellent. And
Mitchell Courts, how you worked for how long?
In Mitchell Courts, I worked for 15 years. And then I retired in 2020.
What was the last position that you were?
Well, my last position in Mitchell Courts was I was shipping and clearing and forwarding manager.
Okay.
Yes, but I would say that was one of the senior most positions in Mitchell Courts.
Tell us about container. This FSS. CFSs.
Yes.
Yeah. The operations of it. What are the benefits of it? How has that helped logistics in Kenya?
Okay, the concept of container freight stations, if I'm not wrong, is something that Signal had in mind. Yeah, Signal had in mind, but it took a while before Signal implemented it through a company, wholly owned company by Signal called Kencont, which is operational up to today. And but other friends of ours also picked up the idea. If I'm not wrong, you can correct me on that. They picked up the idea, and I think they started container freight stations. I think the first Mitchell Courts actually started the container freight stations in 2002, if I'm not wrong. And it was possible because the then MD, Kenya Post Authority, was a shipping person by background. And he was also keen on improving ship turnaround because having been in shipping, he knew the port was suffering in terms of ship's turnaround because a ship would come to Mombasa to discharge containers and wait for up to 5 days, which was very expensive to the industry. And when the idea came up, he actually supported that a lot. And the container freight stations started slowly. People didn't believe that goods would believe, including myself. I would wonder how would a container leave the port when taxes have not been paid, and then it will find itself in an external freight station where now you account. So after the fears were cleared and the first cars and containers were moved to the freight station, I think people believed that it's possible.
Actually, the first people to introduce container CFSs were my former employers before I joined Sigino. This was Leopold Walford and Ellerman Lines.
Yes, correct.
Who are basically of the British.
Yes, correct. Ellerman was British.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the first CFS was actually Kenya Container Terminals.
Yes.
That we opened the first one in Nairobi in the early 80s.
Yes.
Early 80s.
Yes.
And it caught up with time.
Yes.
And that's how, remember, Jonathan Muturi and then later on Philip Okundi were opening up now the inland container depots in Nairobi, in Eldoret, and in Kisumu.
Yes.
Which were very good ideas, and unfortunately, maybe due to changes in government and that the priorities were never followed.
Correct.
But it was a good idea, and I'm glad that you ended up pushing mutual costs in this end. I want to ask you last question as we come to an end.
Yes.
Having been in this field and having worked in these various companies, what would be your advice to those companies that are in clearing and forwarding today and in freight logistics?
Yes.
How they would go about ensuring that there is sustainability in the company beyond the original owners. How to manage transitions of managers, okay, that will ensure that the companies don't die because of change of management.
Well, in my view, for anyone wanting to work in freight logistics, the first step should be the will to do the correct things, commitment to the customer, because in freight logistics, there are timelines which people have to work on. Not for the sake of it, it's because where, for example, one is how we are handling raw material for manufacturing. The timelines are very thin in terms of the order levels and in terms of the need at the manufacturing point. So people have to work long hours, including Saturdays, late Sundays, to ensure, even the transporters, they have to move overnight. You load at 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, you have to be in Nairobi. The production line is waiting for the material. So commitment is really, really critical. And somebody has just to love the job and to have to commit. Once you manage the deliverables, then now you are able to sustain the profession. Now, number two is for people to be able to continue with the same culture, then there has to be always understanding and a plan for somebody to understand whoever is taking over. That is very, very important. And also adopt the same culture and discipline in the work. That way you are able now to have continuity in logistics.
Clement, Mombo, Mwambingu. I'm so glad that we have had the chance to meet again and tell the history of logistics in Kenya and East Africa. Talking about the introduction of quayside, which is portside bagging of and wheat and other products,
Yes.
Introducing inland container depots, now known as CFSs,
Yes.
rotating between departments and learning to be a manager all round. I want to thank God for the friendship that you've kept over the years.
Thank you.
And I wish you well.
Thank you.
Viewers, I hope that you have enjoyed this interview and the insights that my brother Clement has shared. If you like it, please click and like and also share. Next time, we'll be talking to Mr. Hanif Somji of Freight Forwarders, and pray that you look forward to that interview. Thank you so much.